Alright, in this demonstration I want to show you how to use some of the masking features in CS5. If you want to go ahead and open up your 06start.psd file, this is from lesson 6 of the book. You can also get the file on Blackboard. What you're going to do is go ahead and start with this quick selection tool, which is, I'm hovering over it right now. And the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and set, and this is, by the way, your option panel. You want to go ahead and set your brush size to about 15 pixels roughly, with a 100% hardness. And what we're going to do is we're going to end up creating a very sophisticated mask in a very simple way around this guy's hair. Well, actually it'll be his whole body, but the difficult part is mostly around his hair. Okay, so with this brush selected and that brush size, what we're going to do is start selecting his body. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but you know, go ahead and continue making your selection. And by the way, whenever I lift up to continue my selection, I go ahead and I hold down the Shift key. Okay, so I'm going to grab a few of those spots there, and that's the majority of it. But if you're not really sure if you got everything, like I want to get a little bit more of his glasses. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my quick selection tool, and I'm actually going to, in this case, I'm going to lower it just a little bit, and I'm going to hold down my Shift key and grab just a little bit more to get his glasses. Okay? Now the next thing that we want to do is, you'll notice over here I have my mask tab selected. So if you don't have yours selected, you can go up to Window and then choose it from the menu option here. So I have mine open, and also I want you to notice right now what is going on with my layers. Right now we've just got two layers. One is the top layer that we're looking at, and the other one is a bottom layer that is currently invisible. So I'm going to go ahead in my mask tab, and I'm going to click on this button right here. Okay, and what that does is it creates a pixel mask, and it gives me these other options that now open up, and it's creating a pixel mask based on our other selection that we had just created with the quick select tool. So at this point I want to go ahead and I want to refine the mask edge. So to do that, I'm going to click on this button here that says Mask Edge, this button that is currently in the Masks tab. And whenever we get to the mask edge, you're going to see that it automatically puts this person to a white background. I'm going to go ahead, because of what I'm trying to select right now, I'm going to try to see some white things to get rid of. I'm going to put him on a black background first off. Okay, and then if I click off of it, what I can do now is excuse me, go ahead and make some other changes. I want to go ahead and adjust the edge so that it's smoother, up to maybe say about 15 pixels. I'm also going to increase the contrast by about 40 pixels, and you wouldn't necessarily know exactly you know, which one of these things to change and how much, except that you would just adjust them based on some trial and error and based on some experience. But until you have the experience, I'm going to show you some techniques that you can use. And then we're going to shift the edge in, so we're going to do it about roughly -8, -7 or 8%. And what that's going to do is it shifts the edge in from where the original mask was a little bit. And now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is decontaminate the colors, and where it says output to, we're going to make a new layer with a layer mask. Okay, and you don't need to click on remember the settings unless you really want to, but then it will remember these settings every time. Okay, and now what's important here is I want to get rid of, while these settings are still selected, I want to get rid of the spaces that are near his nose and his chin. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that if I need to blow it up, I can blow it up with this tool right here. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and select my tool here, and we can lower the size either this way, or you can also use one of your bracket keys. Alright, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and use about 34 brush size. And then I'm going to get rid of the white spots that are right around his nose and his chin. Okay, so that's a little bit better. The other thing that I'm going to do is come up here and work in this area a little bit and get rid of some of the white that is around his glasses and around his eyebrow. Okay, and then if I go ahead and say OK, then you see what it did is it created a new layer with a mask, and it has that mask that we just created. Now that was just to get rid of the white spaces around his face, but now we want to go ahead, let me zoom out a little bit. Now we want to go ahead and try to deal with his hair. Okay, he's got some hair issues going on. So we're going to go ahead and leave this current layer selected, layer 0 copy. It's the one we just made. And we're going to come back down here again, and we're going to refine the mask edge yet again. Alright, but this time instead of looking at it on black, because we're doing his hair, we don't want to look at black on black, we want to look at black on white and see how it looks. Alright, so we're going to click here and choose on white. And you can still see some of this sort of bluish tint in here and see what's going on. So click off of that, and the next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and just leave this refine mask screen alone. Alright, and you see that it defaulted back to its original settings, and that's fine. And what I want to do at this point is I want to increase my brush size maybe somewhere to about 300%. And you could either do that by jumping up here, alright, and changing it with the scrubber, or you could also use the the close bracket, which is just above the return key on most computers, and we can jump up to about 300%. Alright, actually it's about 300 pixels. And what we're going to do is kind of click around out here, and you see what it's doing is that it's actually taking down the material that's inside of his hair, and it's giving us those fine tips. Okay, and you see that it kind of got muddy right in the section right around the back of his part, but we'll take care of that momentarily. Now I'm going to lower the brush size with the open bracket. Okay, and we're going to take care of some of the smoother edges around the back of his hair where there are some finer hairs. Okay, so, and you see I'm not clicking right directly over the edge of his hair with the center of my brush. I'm kind of doing it with the outside of the brush, and it's working out pretty well for me. Okay, and so you've got all these little hairs now that show up, and we've got a pretty good mask, except for we've got this really dirty spot up here. So what I want to do now is I want to erase that part of the mask. If I click and hold on my Refine Radius tool, I can choose Erase Refinements, and I want to get this brush down to be much smaller so that I can start cleaning this section up right in here, and I can make it even smaller yet. I can really start to clean some of that dirty stuff up. It's kind of hard to see, possibly depending on your computer settings, but it's definitely there. Okay, and so now we actually have a pretty good selection that we made that's changed, and what we want to do is go ahead and, before we say OK, I want to say Decontaminate Colors, and I'm going to knock this up to about 85%. And you see what it did up here in the hair, because our selection change had actually sort of contaminated the color in the hair, and let's actually throw it back down, and you'll see it lightened a lot of places a lot. So we're going to throw the decontamination up quite a bit higher, and you can kind of play with those settings if you want, but somewhere around 85%. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to output this to a new layer with a layer mask and say OK. And this is our newest selection, and what's nice about doing it this way is you'll see that it actually preserved all of our different steps in case you need to go backwards, you didn't like something that you did. And now if you want to look at this person on top of another background, what you can do is so you can see everything a little bit better. And now you get a better idea of what he looks like on top of another background. And you can see how sophisticated the masking is for something that really took very little work, actually. And if you don't really think that that was a little bit of work, and you thought that was a lot of work, you should try using it before this feature was available. Anyway, so that's one of the ways that you can use the mask edge refining tools for masking in CS5.